You ever get so excited about something, you kind of don't know how to articulate it? Oh my god, okay, so, unnecessary backstory, but I have to over-explain myself always. I have been working my ass off on this video essay, and it's taking me a lot longer than I thought it was going to because, video essays are a lot of work. I want to do a really thorough job, especially since there are people like H Bomber Guy out there. Not that, I mean, he might be looking at people with 1,200 followers on YouTube. Like, so you've got it. Like, they're out there. You know what I mean? Like, he is a very thorough person, so I actually wouldn't put it past him. Anyway, while I've been working on this video essay, I've also been rewatching CSI, which is one of my biggest hyperfixation medias. Huge to me, and I got into it when I was like 15, 16, 17, and like it's a really seminal hyperfixation for me. Last year and this year are all about like letting yourself love what you love as much as you love it. Society doesn't like us to love things too much, if you know what I mean. But I've been letting myself love the thing that I love as much as I love it. And particularly what I love about CSI is the relationship between Grissom and Sara. Gilbert Grissom and Sara's idol. And I have a poster on my wall in there that I printed myself off some website, found the picture myself, and I was watching the episode that picture is from today, and I got inspired to make a different YouTube video. Still going to be working on the video essay. What I'm going to add to the mix is I'm going to react to every Grissom and Sara moment, Grissom and Sara romance. We shorten it GSR, which also stands for gunshot residue. So like there are layers. Like I love fans and I love fandom, because what do you mean their ship name is GSR for Grissom and Sara romance and GSR for gunshot residue on a procedural about forensic analysis specialists who analyze things like gunshot residue. Like what do you mean? Like brilliant. Like the early 2000s CSI fandom was doing it like nobody else. Anyway, I'm going to react to every Grissom and Sara moment in CSI, and I'm going to do the reboot Vegas. So like starting episode 2, because Sara doesn't come until episode 2, and going through the end of season 1 of Vegas. I don't think that they come back for season 2, but I haven't watched season 2, so if I can find it, I'll watch it. And I'm just going to rehash what has happened to you, talk about my feelings, probably info dump a lot more than I need to, but this was a seminal ship for me. This is like the OTP for me, the one true pairing. Like they are it for me. I have a lot of other ships that I'm into, but like they're it, bro. And I could talk about it for little hours, and I will. I'm going to. That's what this video is. I'm so excited, and yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this. You clicked on this video, you know that we're doing this. I love videos about media, especially when somebody's just like unhinged and into it and goes on a fucking deep dive. I love that. So here I am. Let's go. Oh, I should do the I don't want to do the actual CSI theme song because I would like to get this video monetized, so who are you? Who are you? I really wanna know. Oh, come on, tell me, who are you? You are you? Thank you. Jesus Christ. I just need you to know 2 things before we actually get started with this. 1, I did have a mic. I had 2 actually. I cannot find the thing that plugs into the phone to attach the mic to the phone. So I do have a mic, but I cannot use the mic. So do I really have a mic? I don't know. I'm not a philosophy major. If a tree falls in a forest, it does still make a sound. I do technically have a mic, but it doesn't do its function. So is it a microphone? You know what I mean? Ce n'est pas un mic. I am currently watching season 4, episode 9. And I started on season 1, like, last week. And I'm going to start over at season 1 to make this video. And I'm not upset about that at all. Because I love CSI so much. And I'm also very excited about making this video. But I just wanted you to know, like, where I'm at. That I have already very recently watched 4.5 seasons of CSI. And I'm going to start over and watch all of CSI and the new reboot from a couple years ago for this video. We love hyperfixating. So I'm not going to watch episode 1 again, the pilot, because Sara is not in episode 1. What happens in episode 1 leads to Sara's arrival. Essentially, there's a new CSI. She gets left alone at a case. She's just fingerprinting. The criminal comes back and unalives her. And because somebody was supposed to be with her and stuff fell through the cracks, like she wasn't supposed to be alone at the crime scene, Grissom has his friend Sara come in to do the internal affairs investigation. They have to have a special investigation into what happened that led to her being left alone at the crime scene and being unalived. Am I going to say unalived this whole time? I don't know. We will see. I don't know how YouTube feels about this. I'm talking about a procedural that covers murder and but it's just kind of habitual to say unaliving at this point. In the first episode, Grissom is the senior CSI, but he is not the supervisor yet. Brass is the supervisor, Jim Brass. But because of the new CSI being left alone at the crime scene, Jim Brass gets, I guess, demoted. He gets sent back to be a detective in homicide. I don't know if apparently that's a demotion. I don't know. I don't know how factual CSI is about everything. Jim Brass gets removed as supervisor. Grissom gets promoted to supervisor. So by season 1, episode 2, Sara's first episode, good Lord, Grissom is supervisor. And she comes in as an outside investigator initially, but then stays on. So we're starting out on this playing field of he's her supervisor. And I'm not condoning this kind of relationship because there is a power dynamic here. Now, they were friends before, and we'll get into the backstory as we go along. But he was a special lecturer somewhere, and she took his lecture. I don't know if she was in college when that happened or if she was already an adult. I read a fan fiction once where she was at college, but you know what I mean. So there is this power dynamic that's going on that we need to be aware of. You know, you can enjoy problematic media critically. So our two main players, Gilbert Grissom, Sara Seidel, supervisor of the graveyard shift of forensic investigation in Las Vegas, Nevada, and new CSI, or about to be new CSI, Sara Seidel, his subordinate, essentially. They come in, they're immediately flirting, and from what I have read, I'll try to do some research about this, they brought Georgia Fox, who plays Sara Seidel, in to be a potential love interest for William Peterson, who plays Gil Grissom. Okay, so Wikipedia has some character information. I was trying to figure out Sara's backstory. So it says she grew up in San Francisco and was valedictorian at the age of 16, attended Harvard on a scholarship, and grad school at University of California, Berkeley. While at Berkeley, she started a work-study position at the San Francisco Coroner's Office, where she would also audit lectures to keep up with new developments. It was at one of these that she met Gil Grissom. Sounds exactly like her, going out of her way to, just kind of obsessive, going above and beyond to learn as much as she can. Sometime later, while working in San Francisco, Grissom called her because he needed someone outside the Las Vegas team. Seidel went to Las Vegas and helped resolve some internal affairs problems within the CSIs. That's not grammar. While also providing a replacement for Holly Gribbs, who had been shot. Some episodes later, she became a permanent member of the night shift as CSI Level 3. She was in grad school. There's still the power dynamic. There's always the power dynamic, and there's always the age gap. He was a lecturer. She was a student. She was very She went to Harvard at 16. Even then, like, she was still, like, you know, mid-20s when they met. But he is her supervisor. So again, we're not condoning that, but we can enjoy it in the context of fiction. I realized I did a character intro for Sara, but not for Grissom, and that's simply uneven and unfair. Gilbert Arthur Grissom. Oh my god, King, I had no idea you had a canonical middle name, Arthur. I wonder if that's his dad's name. His dad died when he was like 9. I wouldn't be surprised. Gilbert Arthur Grissom, PhD. So true. Ooh, she's a Virgo and he's a Leo. That works. Grissom is a forensic entomologist, which means he is a bug specialist. And for the series' first 9 seasons, a CSI Level 3 supervisor employed by the Las Vegas Police Department. He was born as an only child in Santa Monica, California. His father taught botany. His father died when he was 9. See, I told you. He would play doctor as a child by performing necropsies on small deceased animals in the local area. That's an autopsy for non-human animals, by the way. That's fun because if you set that out of context, it's like you either grow up to become a forensics investigator / coroner or a serial killer. His mother, Betty, became deaf as a result of genetic disorder, which he also deals with throughout the course of the series. He has surgery at one point to help correct it. They say she was responsible for his love of books. He loves books.
Ew,
Oh my
you
god,
like
nerd.
reading?
What a
Oh my god.
loser.
What a
Geek.
nerd.
He's fluent in American Sign Language because of her. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in biology, magna cum laude, from the University of California, Los Angeles, and his PhD in biology from the University of Chicago. Cool. I didn't know all of that. And also, I don't think I read this in Sarah's description. Her father was an abusive alcoholic and was killed by Sarah's schizophrenic mother. So that comes into play later. They have several cases where abuse is evident and she gets very emotional about it, and her anger comes out, probably because she has a lot of unprocessed trauma. Relatable. But they also have an episode at a mental institute, and she says, you know, crazy people make me feel crazy, and talks about how her mother was sent to an institution like that after she killed her father. Cool. That's just some background information that I want us to go into this having. Georgia Fox said that when she auditioned for the role of Sara, the tiny little character description suggested that she was a love interest for the character of Gil Grissom. The idea of bringing them together has been kicked around, debated, and fought about for 6 seasons. So this article is from 2006, and they get together canonically, or they announce that they're together canonically in season 6. There have been raging debates in the writers' room since season 1 about Sarah's relationship with Grissom pre-Las Vegas. What actually happened in San Francisco, said executive producer Carol Mendelsohn. The room is fairly divided and has been over the seasons. I happen to think that they were intimate in San Francisco, but not intimate once they got to Las Vegas, at least at the beginning. And since I'm the showrunner, I won the debate, so true, queen. See, the way that I imagine it is that they, like, went on a date, but Grissom either didn't conceptualize it as a date, or he moved so slowly in general that, like, 1 date or even 2 isn't enough. You know what I mean? But he also may have categorized her in his head as his student, and he has strong boundaries. So I never got the feeling that they were sexually intimate before she came to Las Vegas. I just I feel like they both had a crush on each other. Like, he answers the question in season 8, like, when did you become intimate, and implies that it happened when he was a lecturer and she was a student. But, like, Grissom's the type of person to have, you know, his own unique definition of intimate. This is why I call him asexual, because I wouldn't put it past him to be like, well, we became intimate when we got coffee together outside of the lecture hall and spent 5 hours talking to each other. Like, intimate to him doesn't necessarily mean he got a BJ. You know what I mean? I'm gonna, like, reserve my final idea until I've done this project. But if you have, you know, ideas or headcanons, comment them below, because obviously I love talking about this. they had the pilot, and the pilot is made to test out on audiences, and they take the feedback and adjust to it. And I don't know if they originally did plan to kill off the new CSI, because it is a cliffhanger at the end of the pilot. They're just like, she got shot, she's in surgery. But then by the time we get to the second episode, we have Sara here, with backstory already in place with Grissom, and flirtation in their first scene immediately that I'm about to watch. The show brought her in to be this character, to be this kind of foil for him. I think foil is the right word. So that's where we're at. Okay, I was wrong a little bit. Grissom is not made supervisor until 5 minutes into episode 2. So we start out with him just being a CSI, but then he's like, I got a call from the sheriff. He wants me to run the unit. That being said, he's the one that calls Sara in. And so by the time she gets there, he's supervisor. He's running the show, essentially. I just think it's important to establish that dynamic. I'm going to be talking about them as my OTP, as soulmates. But I do want to establish that there is a power dynamic here. There's also a bit of an age gap. They don't really establish how much, but I believe William Peterson is in his 40s, because by season 4, he describes himself as being in his 50s. And I believe Sara is supposed to be in her late 20s, early 30s. So there is an age gap, but at this point, the age gap is not a problem to me. What would be a problem in a real world scenario is the supervisor subordinate relationship. Okay, so first mention of Sara, and Grissom is handing out assignments at the beginning of shift. He's just announced that he's the acting supervisor. He's going to stay supervisor, but he's the acting supervisor for now. And he says, for now we're short of staff, so I'm bringing in Sara Seidel. And they go, who's that? And he says, she's a CSI out of San Francisco. She's a friend of mine, somebody who I trust. So we've established they're friends. He considers her a friend and somebody that he trusts. So we have like some established intimacy. It's platonic established intimacy, but it's there. They have a history before she comes here. They have history before this moment, and she is somebody that he trusts. I'm still so excited about this video. We love info dumping about our hyperfixations. She's not an official IA agent. He says, I don't want IA involved, internal affairs, but he's bringing in a friend that he trusts to handle the internal investigation. The investigation into what happened that led to the other CSI, Holly, being killed. This also establishes something about Grissom himself. He doesn't like bureaucracy at all. He becomes supervisor kind of by accident. He's the senior CSI. He's the one with the most experience. He's really good at his job. He hates bureaucracy, hates paperwork. He doesn't trust bureaucrats or politicians. He has very few people that he does trust in his like inner circle, and he also doesn't get close to people easily. We establish as we go along that he doesn't have a lot of friends or a big personal life. He's really into his what I would call hyperfixations, his special interests, and he's really into his job. Like, I'm sure forensics would be considered a special interest if we knew anything about his actual neurotype. I am projecting onto a fictional character, as is my want and right to do. Oh my god, she's here. She's arrived. 15 minutes in, Sara Seidel is on the scene. Her cute curly hair that they like never bring back. Her big smile. So Grissom is doing an experiment. They have a man who died after winning the jackpot at a casino, and they're trying to figure out if he jumped off the roof, was pushed, or he fell. And Grissom's taking pictures. They threw a dummy off the roof, and he's got his back turned. He's like, Norman jumped, Norman was pushed, Norman fell. And she goes, wouldn't you if you were married to Mrs. Roper? Which doesn't make sense because he's not married, he had a girlfriend. But you know what? Sometimes TV writers don't make sense. She says a cutesy little line, and he just smirks and he says, I don't even have to turn around. Shut up. Like, yeah, of course. She's got a very distinctive voice. Like, you're not special just for recognizing her voice. I mean, you are special because you're her soulmate. They make me crazy. It's only 15 minutes into the first episode we're talking about, and I'm already like, oh, of course you know her voice. Sara Seidel. And then they are smiling at each other. She's smirking and negging him for his old school forensics. She says, still tossing simulation dummies. Still tossing simulation dummies. There are other ways to tell, you know. We're establishing, okay? She's a brat. She is a brat. She is always the one initiating the flirt. I mean, he initiated the flirting a little bit. They both flirt. Okay, they both flirt. But she's always the one that's like pushing the envelope a little bit, and she is the brat. God, I love her. And so she says there are other ways to tell than using simulation dummies. And he says, how? Computer simulation? I'm a scientist. I like to see it. It like. This is like so perfectly their dynamic where he's like this old school guy who's into figuring things out. He's into the process. He's into the learning. He's into getting his hands in to whatever it is and figuring it out for himself. And he is also always the perpetual teacher. And she is the, teacher's pet. She's always the one with the questions or the thoughts. Like she's always on pace with him, but she's also always learning, and she's always a brat. She's like, you could do it faster, you could do it easier, there's computers. And he's like, I like to see it, I'm old school. And like, she's teasing him about it, she's being a brat about it, but that's what she loves about him. Like, she loves that he's old school. They're kind of opposites attract in some ways. Just like she loves that he's a loser nerd. Like, we'll have moments later where he's info dumping about Trigger the horse, and she's looking at him when their relationship is established. She's looking at him like, you're such a loser. I want to bully you and maybe like give you a noogie, but also I'm in love with you. We should make out. And he says, Newton dropped the apple, I dropped dummies. Oh God, this show is so silly. But that is him. He likes a tangible experiment. And she says, you're old school. And then there's a beat, and then, the emotion shifts, and she says, how's the girl? Talking about the CSI who is not dead yet, but has had a surgery and is holding on. And there's this moment of like, they go from flirting to, like, there's no small talk. Do you know what I mean? There's this immediate establishment of intimacy. They go from flirting to talking about the real issue at hand. And then he kind of disassociates a little bit. He's not looking at her. He's zoning out, and he goes, God, Sara, I have so many unanswered whys. That's like intimate to me too. That goes beyond coworkers and acquaintances. It's like when you say somebody's name like that, you're trying to anchor yourself in them. You're trying to anchor yourself emotionally in them. You're trying to get them to be where you are with you. And he doesn't show that kind of vulnerability a lot of times, and he doesn't show it to most people. He's not being super vulnerable, but you could tell that he's bothered by what's going on, and he's shifting into thinking about it, and he says, God, Sara, I have so many unanswered whys. And then she shifts into the only why that matters to me is why Warwick Brown left that scene. And Warwick Brown is another CSI who is supposed to be overseeing Holly at her crime scene, and is part of the reason why she got shot. It's both like her way of comforting him and also just who she is. It's who they all are. There's a puzzle to be solved, they're gonna solve it. There are clues to be found, they're gonna find them. But he's like, I have so many unanswered whys. And she says, I know which one to focus on. I'm here to help you. I'm here to take care of business. I'm here to help you figure out those whys. And she also has a really strong sense of justice. They both do. Most of the people featured on the show have a really strong sense of justice. But these two especially, well, not especially, I'm just very partial to them. And he just kind of nods. It looks like he bites the inside of his cheek. He's kind of almost impassive, but there's some tension because he cares about Warwick. He trusts Warwick, but he knows that Warwick fucked up. And he knows that Sara is here to investigate Warwick. And it's a very complicated situation because he doesn't want to find out that Warwick fucked up. And he doesn't want to have to deal with the ramifications of that, like Warwick getting in trouble, Warwick getting fired. But that's why Sarah's here, and they all know that that's what's happening. And it almost feels like a moment of worry on his behalf because he knows how good Sara is. Like, she is, top pupil, top of the class. She is teacher's pet. She's like an overachiever. She was obsessive about finding the answer and finding the truth. And we'll see that more and more as the series goes along. And he is just like, she's going to figure it out. And I may not want to know, but I do also want to know the truth because that's the point. We always want to know the truth. But that's their establishing moment. That's their opening scene together. And you get so much out of it. Like, you can feel their friendship and you can feel the eventual blossoming romance. I've seen people theorize that they hooked up or went on a date before all of this, before she came to Las Vegas. I don't know if I believe that. I think they probably both had a crush on each other. Like, later in season 8, when Georgia Fox is leaving the series, they have a scene where they talk about like when their relationship was established. I can't remember what he says, but he says something that establishes it before she even comes to Vegas. And she's like, "Oh, the lecture," and he says, "You had a ponytail." Like, it's very like, she's a student, he's the teacher. And I don't know if they hooked up or if they went on a date at that point, but I feel like, to me, Grissom is kind of asexual. He's very oblivious when it comes to romance. He's oblivious when it comes to intimacy in general, and doesn't get close to people and is bad at dating. We're going to establish that he's bad at dating as the series goes along. Because women are interested in him, but he's always like, yeah, but the bugs in the dead body are kind of like tickling my brain more, I don't know. Yeah, sex is great, but have you ever determined the timeline of bugs arriving to a corpse in order to determine how long that corpse has been dead and exposed to the elements via linear regression? They're not in a romantic relationship at this point. They're friends at this point, but I do believe that it's possible that they went on at least a date, and at the very least, they both have a crush on each other. Grissom is just oblivious. Poor Sara. Okay, this doesn't have to do with GSR specifically, but it's one of the funniest things that CSI has done, in my opinion, it's a perfect example of something that makes me laugh a lot. I have this theory that's just kind of a silly theory that TV writers are bred in captivity and they don't actually ever have any real human interactions, because the way that they write dialogue sometimes, I'm like, have you ever had a conversation with an actual person? One of my favorites is from Criminal Minds, when one character asks another character, "Are you into the goth?" and the other one says, "I used to be." And I'm like, are you a real person? But they just had a scene where they have a suspect's beeper and he called it, so they called the number, he like beeped it and they called the number, and Sarah's there, so it's kind of tangentially related, but Catherine is like, "It's my beeper now," and he says, "It's not your beeper, I do a lot of business on that beeper." And she says, "What kind of business?" And he goes, "Slinging a little something something." And she says, "A little something something, or maybe a little bling bling." And then he says, "What you know about some bling bling?" And she says, "Well, invite me over to your crib and maybe we'll find out." And he says, "It's on," and tells her where to come. And I was just like, what do they think bling bling is? Just want to know what they think bling bling is and how they thought that this scene was supposed to make sense, because it really just feels like white people in a different generation hearing slang from people of color in a different generation and not understanding it at all, not being able to use context clues, not doing any research and just being like, I don't know, just say bling bling. That's a thing that black criminals talk about, right? Lord help us. Oh my god, oh my god. And then when they go and get the guy and arrest him, and they like cuff him and slam him on the bed, Catherine comes in and she goes, "Now that's a bling bling." It's funny. It feels really disrespectful and dismissive of like an actual valid like language pattern. Like AAV is a valid language pattern. It just feels like, oh, they just say silly stuff to be silly, so we're gonna say silly stuff to be silly too. Like, it's disrespectful, but it's also hilarious because how embarrassing for you. How embarrassing for you. It's so easy to figure out what bling bling means, especially. Like, come on. Okay, so by the end of episode 1, Sara finds out that Warwick was placing a bet instead of doing his job monitoring Holly at the crime scene, and she writes a report recommending that he be let go from his job. And Grissom decides not to let Warwick go because he says he doesn't want to lose another CSI because they just lost Holly. And also, if he lets Warwick go, he has to let everybody else go too, because it's a mistake that a lot of people would make. Which is like, it's against technical policy, but they've all done it. They've all been left alone at the scene. They've all, like, I guess, bent the rules a little bit. And this is going to come back to bite him in the next episode when Sara gets mad. But she's established herself as part of the team now. She helped Catherine out with her case. And for some reason, I didn't finish my thought in the last clip. But Sara establishes herself as part of the team. She helps Catherine with her case. And that brings her in to be, like, to continue to be on the show, because she's no longer just there because of Grissom. She's no longer just there because of the IA investigation. She's no longer just established with Grissom. Like, she's slowly gonna establish friendships with the other coworkers. Catherine was really suspicious of her at first, but they ended up working together and solving a case. We got a really good moment in this scene of establishing her intimacy and history with Grissom, establishing the type of person she is, the type of investigator she is, and establishing that she can have relationships with these other characters, so that her staying on the show makes sense. I'm editing this as I film it, and I'm at 30 minutes and I've only talked about the first episode. So maybe we won't do the whole season. Maybe we will do segments of episodes, because good lord, a bitch has a lot to say. Okay, we're starting season 1, episode 3. And this isn't directly connected to GSR, but Grissom is talking about his evidence process. They're working on a kidnapping case at the beginning, but he says, in my experience, if you want to go fast, go slow. And he's talking about processing evidence well, and the strategy for collecting evidence and finding out information. Like, if you rush, you're gonna make more mistakes, you're gonna miss things, that kind of thing. But it feels related to this because I'm hyperfixated on this, because we come in hot with Grissom and Sara. They're immediately flirting, they're immediately having established intimacy, but then it cools off real fast. They don't get together until season 6. It is the slowest burn you can imagine, and it just feels like that's kind of Grissom's process in general. He takes his time. He doesn't want to force anything. He doesn't want to rush anything, especially something so important as falling in love or being with your soulmate. And I'm not saying that he's there yet mentally, because like I said, he's oblivious. But it feels like it speaks to him as a person. If you want to go fast, you should go slow. If you want something done right, you should take your time with it. And you know what? I think that speaks to how he handles relationships too. So that's why he drives Sara and me crazy. Okay, we're at 3 minutes in, and Grissom and Sara haven't interacted with each other, but Nick is doing audio on the case he's working with Sara, and Sara says, I wanted that. And he says, I outrank you. And she says, technicality. Who did Grissom handpick to work here? Cheeky, handpicked to be on the team. We get it, you're the teacher's pet. We get it, you're special. We get it, you're his soulmate, and you guys don't know it yet. We get it, you're deeply in love, and it'll take you 6 years to do anything about it. Well, she wants to do something about it earlier, but she's just like, and this is her bratty quality too. She's like, yeah, but like, he chose me, so. Sara is in the room taking photos in the bedroom, and Grissom comes in. He is very aloof, acts like he doesn't see her. She immediately notices him, but then kind of goes back to what she's doing. I just want to establish his aloofness because that contributes to a lot of the tension in their relationship, especially early on. He seems really disconnected and aloof, and you know I've called him oblivious. He's a very observational man, but he can also like he's disconnected from the people around him in some ways, and I think probably has some like fear of intimacy or trouble with it, which often causes people to be more reserved in like interpersonal interactions. She starts talking to him, immediately telling him what her kind of hypothesis about how the crime happened. He doesn't say anything to her. He barely seems to notice that she's there. Like, I'm sure he does, but he's looking at the evidence. And then she starts monologuing about what her theory is about what happened. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. So she is monologuing. She talks for about 20-30 seconds about her ideas about what happens. He doesn't respond. He's looking at some dirt on the floor. He's looking around the room, then he looks at the dirt on the floor and squats down. And when he doesn't respond, she goes, I'm sorry. Is my evaluation disturbing you? So bratty. And then my oblivious man, he goes, no, I barely heard you. Oh my god. Like I get it. I am into emotionally unavailable people too. It's like a puzzle to solve. It's like, you know, wrapped up in whatever trauma and personal history I have, but it's just like, come on. And she goes, glad I have a healthy ego. And she's just flirting with him. He's so oblivious and is so straightforward. She's like, glad I have a healthy ego. And then, you know, like she probably is hurt, but she plays it off. And she says, you find something interesting there. Immediately switches into discussing the case because that's what's important, but also that's what's gonna get him talking. And he says, dirt. And she says, you're so technical, I can hardly keep up. The flirting, the teasing, the brattiness. And he's so straightforward. He's like, oh, sorry, but out of context, it's just dirt. Like, he might be being a little cheeky, but it's so just like, he's like, yeah, well, all it is dirt until we know what it is. She's like frustrated, but she's also like, he's not wrong. But then he will flirt. He will flirt. Like, I don't. So they walk outside and they find a rag with some chemical on it, and they smell it, and they're like, maybe chloroform, maybe halothane, something to knock somebody out. And the rag is just on the ground out there, and he picks it up, he sniffs it, he holds it over to her for her to sniff it. She says, can't be chloroform. He says, halothane, maybe. And then he's so annoying because he said, I barely heard you. Sorry, hold up. And he goes, looks like a professional job, I think you said. Care to amend your evaluation? He was listening to her, but acted like he didn't hear her, and then is using it to tease her and flirt back at her. The look on her face right now, she's just like, and this is why, it's this push and this pull, this will they, won't they, this are they or are they not. Like, they are constantly flirting with each other and having this weird tension. But then he's also constantly aloof, and then she has to be bratty, and then he, like, will just, like, out of nowhere do something to, like, be flirtatious. And then, so, like, she's always on his hook. always on his hook. For 6 years, she's on his hook. Maybe longer. Like, who knows how long they knew each other before she came to work for him. But he said he wasn't listening. He acted like he didn't hear her and was distracted by the evidence. And then when they find more evidence, like, contradicts her theory, he says, care to amend your evaluation? He heard everything she said. He's such a tease. He's so annoying. Oh my God. So he's like, care to amend your evaluation. If a guy leaves the rag behind, he's not very professional. And she is like, you know, a little humbled and like, you know, how you feel when your crush teases you or like calls you out on something and you're like, oh, I was trying to impress you. And then she says, I keep trying to be your star pupil. And then he's like, that was a seminar. This is real. I keep trying to be your star pupil. Oh, God. And see, I've always been a teacher's pet too, so it just like speaks to me on a really specific level. Sara, that was a seminar. This is real. And that's what I love about Grissom is like he will flirt, he will be playful, but he is also like always going to bring people back down to earth. And he's like, don't make this about me or us. We are trying to solve the crime of a woman who was currently kidnapped. That is the focus. The actual evidence is the focus. Don't make it about your ego. Don't make it about impressing me. Don't make it about anybody but the victim and the evidence. So, and that's why she's in love with him, because she's like, you're right. And like, she's always learning from him. They are all always learning from him, but like her especially. Then like it comes back to the dirt and they're like, they think the killer or the kidnapper dragged the dirt in. He says, well, I guess we follow the dirt. And he walks away and she's just like, because of everything that just happened. Like, the dirt was important. Her big fancy like analysis of the scene was incorrect. She's always humbled. She's always learning from him. She's like over eager to impress her crush, impress the smart teacher that she has a crush on. And he will flirt back, but he's also like, the evidence is the most important thing. Stay grounded, stay focused. And like, that's part of why he's oblivious romantically and interpersonally, and also why it takes them 6 fucking seasons to get together. Okay, so they narrow down where the kidnapped woman probably is, and they're flying over in a helicopter. Sara and Grissom are together in the helicopter, and they're scanning the ground. They see her below the surface. They land. They start digging. People come to help. They pull her up. It's very chaotic. It's very stressful. It's very heightened. The helicopter's there, like, so there's like this winds and there's this noise, and they open this box in the ground and she's there. She's duct taped, and they pull her out and they collect the tape, and the rescuers take the woman and they're staying. Grissom and Sara are staying with the box. They like, you could kind of, I don't know, if you're thinking about them in the context of they have feelings for each other, this is a very heightened moment. And the thing is, they have, every day they have life and death moments like this to some degree. It's the nature of their work, but they're digging, they're trying to rescue this woman who's still alive and buried under the ground. And they're working side by side, and you could just like, I don't know, the kind of bonding you do, the intimacy that's bred of that kind of activity.
Aw, man. Not again.
As she's taken away by the rescuers, Sarah's like kind of hunching over and shaking her head and looking at the ground. And Grissom turns, he notices her. And he like, to get her attention, he goes like this. Like, it's hard to do it on myself, but he basically like kind of cups her face a little bit, like in her hair. He says, "Are you okay?" God. Just like, the thing about slow burn is like that building of tension and intimacy. So everything, like every moment like that just feels almost erotic if you're as connected to it as I am. And he says, "Are you okay?" And it takes me back to a moment in, I think, season 3 where she gets injured, and he says, "Honey, this doesn't look good," as he's holding her hand. It's injured. And he can be oblivious, and he can be aloof, and he can be really focused on the job and the evidence, and he can be bad with people, but he can also be so gentle and deeply caring, and he notices a lot, even if he acts like he doesn't, or he acts like he's oblivious. He's like, "Are you okay?" And she says, it never ceases to amaze me what people do to each other. And that's another kind of establishment of their relationship, where he is better at disconnecting, especially when it comes to the job. He is better at, I don't know if you can call it, I guess, compartmentalizing. I don't know how healthy his compartmentalizing is, um, considering it seems to get in the way of his interpersonal relationships, but he's a lot better at disconnecting and seeing things in a more scientific way. He's not removed from the human element, but she is often driven by her emotions and has a hard time disconnecting from the human element, from the tragic element, from the pain that people are going through. And she has a lot of trauma that we're going to come into contact with, which plays into that. But the emotional rawness that she exhibits and verbalizes, he's like looking at her kind of like, I don't know, he didn't expect her to say that. He didn't expect her to feel that way. Maybe he wasn't thinking about it in that way. I'm sure he was aware of, like, the human element, but in his mind, this is a victory moment. They found the woman, they rescued her, she's alive, and they have evidence they can keep following to solve the puzzle. Like, that's where his mind's at. And she switches back into work mode, and he switches back into work mode, and this like shows the like where his mindset is, that he's like feeling the victory, where she's feeling the like trauma, the tragedy. He's radioing and he's like, we got her, we found her, she's alive. So it's just a really cool dichotomy, and that also contributes to their relationship and their tension, their attraction and their tension. Episode 3, 29 minutes in, and we have one of the just like top ranked GSR moments. One of the moments that exemplify exactly what kind of subordinate Sara is and what kind of supervisor Grissom is. They were in the lab, and they're still working on the kidnapping case, obviously, and he is talking to Catherine, and Sara pops up and says, "Hey Grissom, can you come tape me up?" In front of Catherine. Oh Lord. No wonder everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. I mean, they're oblivious when they finally get together, but like, we'll have moments throughout the series where like there are hints that everybody knows that they have history, or they have flirtation, or that she's special, or whatever. She has feelings for him, whatever. Anyway, Sara just kind of like smiles at him and then walks away, and he looks at Catherine with this just kind of look on his face, just like, "I love my work." And then Catherine goes, "It shows." And she's got like kind of a concerned kind of overtone, and he's intrigued and excited because a pretty young thing is flirting with him. And then she's in the car looking up at him. He's taping her up. They are smiling at each other with their eyes, with their faces, with their mouths. Like, it is so unnecessary. The like sexual overtones of tape me up and then her looking up at him. And then like they are talking about evidence, and she's like, "Look, she couldn't have been taped up because of the evidence that was on her arm." And then she says, "Cut me, Mick," which is some reference, but like she flips into being like, the cool girl. They're not like other girls. She's not just overtly flirting, but she's also flirting by like, I don't know, referencing a movie. So she's like pumped because she thinks she figured out something, and I mean she did. And he's smiling. He's like, "Okay, so maybe she wasn't drugged and the evidence will be in her blood." And he says, "Good thing I took a sample of her blood." And she smirks and she's like, "Damn it, I wanted to carry the ball over the line." Sports reference. Another flirtation tactic, maybe. But basically she's like, this is another star pupil moment. And he looks away, biting back his smile. He is pleased by what she's done. Sorry about this angle. I didn't feel like using my tripod for this, and my arm is tired. He is pleased by what she figured out, by her earnestness, by her. And when she says, I wanted to carry the ball over the line, he goes, I know. Because he's always like, he didn't know all the things that she said, but he's always a little bit ahead of the game. Like, he collected the blood in case they needed to check the blood. They were all assuming that the woman got drugged because she was kidnapped. And now they're figuring out that she was in on it, essentially. And it's just like they're smiling at each other and their eyes are sparkling and they're flirting by exchanging information and solving a puzzle together, and they're flirting over a crime scene, and oh my gosh. They make me crazy, guys. The next scene we see them in together, Grissom is listening to a tape player. I think he's probably listening to the ransom tape, but they don't actually establish it. And she opens the door and comes in and says, Grateful Dead CD? And he jumps and pulls his headphone off and he's like, who's dead? Which is just like, it's a cute moment, but it also, again, feels reflective of their relationship where she's flirting and he's oblivious. Like, he's oblivious because he had headphones on, but still. They confront the woman with the evidence that she was complicit in her own kidnapping, and Grissom says, I tend not to believe people. People lie, the evidence doesn't. And that's a big thing for his character. That's like what he's known for. The evidence never lies. And people will bring that up again and quote him and stuff. And Sara is sitting by him and just like looking at him like she admires him so much. And it's not a big moment, but every moment is big when you're obsessed. I do think he was listening to the ransom tape on the tape deck. Grissom doesn't really do anything randomly, which is also, because he's a written character, but so I just wanted to be factual in my reporting. But anyway, they just do like a back and forth, telling her their theory, what the evidence has told them in front of her husband. It's really dramatic. They're a really good team. I can't tell if I'm projecting more chemistry onto them because I know what happens and because I'm so obsessed with them, or if it just like feels like every moment between them is charged, because it kind of feels like every moment between them is charged. I'm projecting. There's an interesting parallel as they wrap that case up and they watch the woman get put in the car and driven away, and they frame Sara standing behind Grissom, and she looks victorious in a really like serious way. She's not smiling, but she's like weeds at it. She looks accomplished and proud, and she's also probably a little like, bitter maybe because she thought that the woman was the victim at first. That's why she was like, I can't believe what people do to each other. That's where that line came in. And it feels like a parallel to that moment because she looks like that. She looks victorious. And he has a moment where he kind of shakes his head. He looks down. He bites the inside of his cheek. Or like there's a twitch or something. And it looks like he is having that moment of, I can't believe what people do. Because they just, got her arrested for faking her own kidnapping. And, had to reveal that in front of her husband and that kind of thing. And so it's like kind of a reversal of those moments where in the first one he is victorious and she is feeling the tragedy, and in this one she is victorious, to oversimplify, and he looks like, I can't believe the things that humans do, essentially. It's just a cool parallel. And that's something else. Like, they take a really long time to establish this relationship, and this show is so much more about other things. But the writers really do a good job of kind of playing them off of each other, doing parallels, building the tension, keeping you interested, keeping that slow burn slowly burning. It's good, yeah. Oh, I love it! Oh my god. So my original intention with this video was to react to every GSR moment in all of CSI. That's like 14, 15 seasons if you include the remake. Well, as you can see, I've reacted to 2 episodes and it's an hour long. Now, granted, I did have a lot of intro, but apparently I had a lot more to say than I realized. And there are a lot more GSR moments to react to than I realized. So my new plan is to do segments, probably like 1-hour videos, and I will react to 2 to 4 episodes of CSI and all of the GSR moments in them. And I'll just keep doing that until I'm bored or I get through all of CSI. Now, they don't have a ton of interactions in every episode, so like I'll be able to cover more episodes in some videos. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna do like 2 to 4 episodes per video, which is fun because that means I have more videos I can post and you don't have to sit through a 5-hour video. God, it would probably be 10 hours if I did all of what I want to do in this way. But yeah, so here's the first 2 episodes. Grissom and Sara are in together and my reaction to every moment they share together and more. As you could tell, I'm very passionate about this. I shocked myself. I can't believe this video is this long and I've only covered 2 episodes. I don't know when the next one will be posted, but I'm gonna start filming it as soon as I post this one, if not sooner. So just keep an eye out, subscribe and turn on notifications if you're interested in seeing more of these. Leave a like or a comment if you do enjoy this, because I don't know if this appeals to anybody besides me, but I'm having a ball in this bitch. So I hope there are other people out there. I genuinely missed when the CSI fandom was alive and well. That was my first foray into real fandom. Like, I was into the Harry Potter fandom, so I guess that was my first foray. But as a teenager, looking at forums, I don't know, it felt different than the Harry Potter fandom. Maybe because I was older and more of an adult. I was there when Georgia Fox was leaving and the original writer's strike was happening, and people in the CSI fandom were protesting and sending stuff to CBS, and it was just like a cool time to be in a fandom and to be in this fandom. It's just like a very big fandom for me. It's a very big hyperfixation for me, and it's really exciting to me to share it in this way. So I hope somebody else out there is excited as well. Check the description. You can find my TikTok and Instagram linked. I am currently unemployed, so if you have a little extra money, you could send my way. I'll have my Venmo, cashapp, zelle on there. I also made a Patreon recently. There's a $5 monthly support option, and I'll be doing TikTok style vlogs and posting bloopers on there. I'm also open to requests because I've never done a Patreon before, so I don't really know what people would want if they wanted to subscribe and support me. So feel free to do that, to let me know what you'd like to see. If you like this video, if you have ideas for other videos like this that I could do that you'd like to see, please let me know as well. I'm very open to suggestions. If something clicks with my brain, I'm willing to try it. I love making content, and I'm kind of exploring the kind of content I can make. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm working on a longer video essay. I don't know how long that's going to take me, especially now that I'm kind of pausing it to work on this. But I'm really excited to get it done and finally get it posted. I haven't worked so diligently on something, I think, in my whole life. I used to write research papers for extra cash, and I was always really good at writing research papers and essays for college. But this is going beyond that because it's something that I'm genuinely interested in and excited about, and then I'm gonna make a video. It feels like I'm making a documentary, essentially. So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about all of these projects that I have going on, and I hope somebody out there is also excited. If you watched to this point, thank you. You're amazing. Okay. Also a long-ass outro. Can you tell I'm excited? Okay. Bye.